Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to a game of throws in World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. We've got something a little different for you today, for a couple of reasons. If you're thinking, that's a funny looking arrangement for the bridge tower on a German cruiser, yeah, you're absolutely right, that's the Hildebrand. This is the new Tier 10 German hybrid. Not quite an aircraft carrier, but well, as close as damn it. And unlike most of the other hybrids in the game, with the exception of a couple of the Japanese ones, it's not a battleship, it is in fact a cruiser. Although it does have 6 305mm guns, which are technically battleship caliber. I mean, they're certainly bigger than heavy cruiser guns, which are limited to 8-inch or 203mm, so yeah, they're fairly big guns with a reasonable reload. The other thing that's a little different about today's battle is that Frostbite WTF here, in command of the Hildebrand, is not in a standard battle. This is ranked. It's, in fact, the arms race version of ranked, which is why there are all kinds of, well, not exactly capture points, but buff pickup points scattered around the map, and there are only 6 players per team. However, the fact that his team does have what is, in effect, an aircraft carrier, although not exactly, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but it is going to give them a massive spotting advantage. A massive spotting advantage that his team are going to completely waste. So when is an aircraft carrier not an aircraft carrier? Well, when it's a hybrid. I mean, having the aircraft available does give you a huge spotting advantage. But there are differences with hybrids. For a start, they don't have aircraft lined up on the deck ready to go at will. Instead, they're basically cooldowns, like the damage control, like the heal. So you can't just spam them. The torpedo bombers, which are ready to go now, they have an 80-second cooldown, so they're the closest thing the Hildebrand gets to a squadron that's more or less almost always ready to go. The dive bombers, which pack a bigger punch and come in a much bigger squadron, have a much longer cooldown. Oh, and there's the early spotting advantage. He's already seen the enemy destroyer, the Marceau. So getting spotted this early on would ordinarily be extremely bad news for a destroyer in any battle, standard, ranked, whatever. Just not this time, because with the exception of the friendly Halland and possibly the friendly Smolensk taking a couple of snapshots at the Marceau there when it was spotted, the team are more or less going to completely ignore it for the rest of the battle, despite Frostbite continually spotting it over and over and over. It's like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Enemy battleship, the USS Rhode Island, spotted. 305mm guns ready to go. Nice convenient saddle in the island there that allows them to get some shots off. And the torpedo bombers are about ready to go again. So Frostbite is basically, because if you've got this spotting advantage, then keeping the enemy destroyer lit up is the best way to use it. He's going to do exactly that. Looks like the Marceau's figured maybe it's a good idea to turn his anti-aircraft guns on this time. He's managed to go undetected. Frostbite's about to light him up again. Absolutely nobody paying any attention to the spotted enemy destroyer. Well, I mean, to be fair, he wasn't spotted for long, and it does take time to turn your gun turrets around, so let's see. 20 seconds, he'll be ready to have another go. Spoiler alert. Nobody's going to give a shit. I mean, he is tucked in around the lip of the archipelago there, so the Halland is probably too close to be able to get shots at him, but the Smolensk is far enough away to lob shots over the island, and he's definitely within secondary range of the friendly Libertad, but, well, he's no longer within secondary range of the friendly Libertad because he's just been sunk. Oh well, third time lucky. There he is. Once again, he still has his AA guns on. I mean, it's fairly obvious that Frostbite is taking a personal interest in his well-being. So on the first time he was spotted as he ducked in here, he didn't have the AA guns on in order to not give his position away, but, well, there's one torpedo hit. If you are being hunted by an enemy carrier... Oh, and here come the dive bombers. Much longer cooldown. You cannot spam these things. Cooldown on these things is more than 4 minutes, so you do not get to use them often, And you really do need to make them count. And yeah, that was a very good hit. Again, absolutely nobody paying any attention whatsoever to the enemy Marceau. Aside from Frostbite himself, of course. He had a couple of shots at the Venezia there, but it looked like he decided it was better to stay undetected while he wasn't actually in control of the ship and was sending the aircraft out, so... The Marceau's gotten spotted. It looks like the Halland is now actually shooting at him, but of course the Marceau is shooting back. Actually, it kind of looks like the Smolenska's woken up and realised there's an enemy destroyer over there too. He's certainly... Well, he's running into Marceau torpedoes, but he has managed to sink the Marceau, and he's probably going to try to get into that archipelago there, so he's not giving broadside and getting paddled by the Venezia. Is he going to make it? The Venezia does have a lot of guns, but it also has a very... Oh no, he's got the shots out. Yep, he's... Okay. Couldn't beat the Venezia's reload. So the Smolenska's down. The Halland's gotten some torpedoes away, and he's clearly spotted by the Venezia. This could be very, very bad news. Marceau torpedoes there as well, but he's managed to thread the needle between those. Every single one of the Halland's torpedoes has missed. And if he had any chance of staying undetected, he's kind of blown it now. He's gotten the second set of torpedoes away, which looks like it's going to be slightly more successful than the first. The Venezia still has his number, though. Hildebrand here with the 305mm guns, giving him a bit of fire support. Torpedo bombers are back off cooldown. It looks like, well, the Halland is determined to remain detected. They keep shooting. Torpedoes away. They're looking pretty good. This could be a kill. It might just be enough to save the Halland, who should now be undetected. He's got the Venezia. And the friendly Ohio has just taken out the enemy Ohio. They are now 1 kill ahead. And the scores are even. The Halland's still alive. Although the friendly Ohio is not looking like he's in a particularly good position. He's basically caught in a crossfire between the Neptune and the Stalingrad. And that's not good news. And those look like Neptune torpedoes on the way. Is it all over for the friendly Ohio? Yes. Yes, he is. So they were at 1 kill, but not for long. We haven't seen that USS Rhode Island for a while, have we? But, well, you've just been radared, which means you are within 12 kilometres of the Stalingrad. Oh, this could be very bad. The Stalingrad has some very, very nasty guns. He's angling in order to take any Stalingrad armour piercing on the belt, but it's fine. The Stalingrad is instead targeting the Halland, which is good news for Frostbite. It's not such good news for the Halland. I was going to say, Halland, don't be tempted to shoot and give your position away, but, well, he's radared. It doesn't really matter, does it? Now, the Stalingrad, in that narrow inlet there, that channel, this basically means he's going to be a sitting duck for a torpedo bomber attack. But Frostbite's going to have to be real careful about how he releases them, and it was good, because there was a big chance they were just going to smack into the island and go nowhere. Oh, and there's the Rhode Island. And he's also taken fire from the Neptune and the Stalingrad. This is not good. Well, the Stalingrad's angled in, so we unload some high explosive. Unfortunately, doesn't get to set a fire. But it does some damage. And now here come the dive bombers. There's a big-ass squadron of dive bombers, and they do a bit more damage than the torpedo bombers. Their high explosive bombs are pretty spicy. Bombs away. And it's a reasonable chunk of damage, and it's also set afire. Now, where did the Rhode Island go? Because, of course, Hildebrand is still detected. And there's another, that's a double fire now. One from the high explosive bombs, and one from the 305mm guns. And it looks like the Stalingrad's damage control's on cooldown, because that damage over time is continuing to add up. It's coming back in with the torpedo bombers. That Stalingrad's probably getting very pissed off with Frostbite around about now. Unfortunately, Stalingrad was too close to the island. I don't think those torpedoes made it. That was a pretty good move from the Stalingrad, baiting out the torpedo bombers like that. Still no sign of the Rhode Island. High explosive shells setting another fire, however. And it looks like, yep, the Stalingrad has now used his damage control. And he's probably getting a little bit upset with his teammates, because he's just sitting there taking hit after hit after hit. And, I mean, the Neptune's backing him up from a position of complete and total safety, shooting at the Santander, who is returning fire, but the armour piercing is just ricocheting off the Stalingrad deck from the Santander's guns. Been there, by the way, Santander. It's a seaside resort in northern Spain. It's where the Spanish go for their holidays. It's on the Atlantic coast. Oh, there's the Rhode Island. Very nice place. Santander is where I discovered that a tortilla in Spain is not the same as a tortilla everywhere else. It's actually a kind of potato omelette. Very nice though. But anyway, getting sidetracked. Oh, in all the excitement, I hadn't noticed that the Halland's gotten sunk. There's an opportunity to finish off the Stalingrad here though. Oh, and the Santander's just gone down as well. Which means, of course, Frostbite is now alone in a cruiser against half of the enemy team. An enemy team that consists of one fast battleship, one extremely heavy cruiser, the Stalingrad, who is still alive. The torpedoes did not get him, and he is going to have the opportunity to recover some health. And of course, the light cruiser, the Neptune. There's the Rhode Island. So glad you could turn up. Well, we're not. Hang on. Why is he firing high explosive? I mean, the Rhode Island doesn't have the biggest guns in the game, but they're still battleship guns. They're 14-inch. I would have expected him to be loading the armor-piercing to be shooting at a cruiser, but he's not. Maybe he had the high explosive loaded because he was shooting at the Halland? Nope, he's still firing the high explosive. Alright, fine, no problem. He is, of course, angling in against the torpedo bombers, which means this attack is almost certain to not be successful. And that's the other thing about a hybrid that distinguishes it from an actual aircraft carrier in this game. They don't get automatic damage control that lasts an entire minute and only has a 20-second cooldown. So you set a fire on a hybrid and it will keep burning. And sadly for Frostbite here, even though the Hildebrand is a cruiser, it doesn't get the cruiser's 30-second fire duration. Fires on these things, just like the fire that he set on the Rhode Island over there, last a full 60 seconds. Looks like the Neptune's taking pot shots at him, although not seeing any fire from the Stalingrad. He's probably licking his wounds somewhere, giving the rest of the team a chance to take a beating instead of it being him. But here come the dive bombers. That's an extremely low health Rhode Island. And not a lot of damage from the dive bombers, but well, he is still burning, and the application of a little more 305mm high explosive should be enough to seal the deal, and yep, he's still firing the high explosive. Well, there's damage control. I mean, to be fair to the Rhode Island, the high explosive nearly did the job. And based on my experience of firing large caliber armor piercing at anything that has a flight deck in this game, yeah, okay. Maybe the high explosive was the sensible choice. Ah, there's the Neptune. Okay, the aircraft have been spotted. The Neptune's AA opens up, but he instantly pops his smoke screen. Not the Neptune's smartest move, because even though Frostbite can now technically not see him, that's an extremely narrow channel. And one of those torpedoes hit. And remember, smoke screens work both ways. You can't see into them, but you also can't see out of them. Which means that the Neptune's going to be in a lot of trouble as, well, the 305mm armor piercing continues to actually hit him. As Frostbite gets a heal away and then just waits for the torpedo bombers to come back off cooldown. You see, now with the smoke screen up, the Neptune can now not only not see Frostbite to shoot at with its 5-inch guns, it also can't see the torpedo bombers incoming, and if you can't see them coming, you can't dodge their torpedoes. Smoke screens work both ways, and all Frostbite has to do is wait to see which of the torpedoes hits. Yeah, that one, and then shoot at that location, and he's probably going to hit a Neptune. Yep, there's the big brain moment right there. He's just observing his fall of shot and continuing to shoot at the same position. Still no sign of the Stalingrad, and scoring more hits. Remember, the Neptune's a very, very light cruiser. You basically can't angle against battleship caliber armor piercing shells in that thing. It's a complete waste of time. Torpedo bombers are back up. He knows exactly where the Neptune is. Oh, there's the Stalingrad. Unfortunately, the Stalingrad has now spotted the aircraft, and is in fact about to spot the ship as well, which means the Neptune now has something to shoot at, and he's not going to be the victim of this torpedo attack. However, the Neptune, as a British light cruiser, doesn't have access to high explosive shells, armor piercing only. In order to compensate for that, it gets improved armor penetration angles, which means reduced chance of a ricochet when striking armor. Oh fucking really? And here it comes again. Improved armor penetration angles, my arse. Well, it does have improved armor penetration angles when firing at anything that doesn't have a flight deck, apparently, which is probably why the Rhode Island was using high explosive. Well, there's the Neptune. And here's the 305mm armor piercing, which doesn't need improved armor penetration angles when you're shooting at something that's as badly armored as a Neptune. Torpedo bomber's back up. He's going for the Stalingrad that's trying to sneak around the flank. The Stalingrad has managed to shoot one of them down, which means he's only going to get 2 torpedoes away. Continuing to hose down the Neptune with the 305mm AP as the Neptune, well, attempts to return fire. Oh, and of course the Hildebrand's a German cruiser, so, you know, German secondaries, quarter caliber penetration values for the high explosive secondaries, which have set the Neptune on fire too. He's backing up slightly, which is doing 3 things. It's ensuring that he only has to fight the Neptune rather than the Neptune and the Stalingrad. He's taken the Neptune's AP on his belt, so it's doing minimal damage, and he's also backing away from any potential, no Neptune, don't turn to launch torpedoes. Look, he's backing away behind the island. You don't have a firing, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Do you know what happens to light cruisers who tend to give broadside to ships armed with 305mm armor piercing? The Neptune's about to find out. And that just leaves the Stalingrad. Now this is really bad news, because the Stalingrad was down to about 5,000 health, and now he's back up to 50,000, and he is too close for you to be able to get an attack away with the dive bombers. He's also not a light cruiser. He's an extremely heavily armoured, very, very heavy cruiser. However, well, it's like he will actually be able to, I mean, he's lost some aircraft. He only got 3 bombs away, and it did basically nothing. But even though the Stalingrad is not a light cruiser, it's still just a cruiser, and these are still 305mm armor piercing shells. And you know what happens to a heavy cruiser when it gives broadside to a ship armed with 305mm armor piercing shells? Exactly the same thing that happens to a light cruiser. So that was a full health Neptune, 45,000 hit points worth of Rhode Island, and 50,000 hit points worth of Stalingrad. And between the 3 of them, they still managed to find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And while I'd love nothing more than to be able to say, well, what chance did they have? They were going up against a hybrid. I'm forced to admit that I don't really think the aircraft had that much to do with it. That's a 3,200 base XP match. And while Frostbite's aircraft was certainly useful, most of the team completely ignored the targets that he was spotting with the aircraft, and his 305mm guns did more than 3 times the damage of his 2 attack squadrons combined. I'd like to be able to say I didn't see that victory coming, but, well, obviously I did. The email containing the replay was entitled A Game of Throws, but I still had to see it to believe it. And I hope you all enjoyed watching him pull that one out of his arse, because that's it for today. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.